Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And as always, I have a phenomenal guest. And I always say the best guests are guests that are friends of my friends. And so I want to introduce you to Jessica Renfeldt. She was introduced to me by a friend of mine who is just this amazing woman, Ginny Trask. I've talked about her before on the podcast. And Jessica has such an interesting story. And she is a resilience coach. She's a mindset coach. She's a best-selling author. But her personal story is something that you just can't listen to it without feeling touched by her story. She's a survivor of cancer. She's had a stroke and a heart transplant. And she really works with clients to help them live life fully and to make sure that they are wringing every ounce of joy out of their life that they possibly can, even in really difficult situations. So, Jessica, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here too, Mardi. Hello, and hello to your audience.
Well, and thank you for your time. And I love your message. But before we get into your message, because you and I have talked before about your message, so I have a really good idea. And it resonates so much with me, helping women go through divorce, because that can be a really dark space in people's life for a different reason than some of the things that you've gone through. But tell us a little bit about your life and why now this resilience mindset and coaching people to live life to the fullest has become your area of passion.
Yeah, so I would say I had a pretty cool childhood. I grew up on a farm. Just really got to run through hay fields and ride bikes and play with my best friends all the time. Got married relatively young at 18 and started having kids at the age of 20. So I was a young mom. And on top of being a young mom, I also had to work outside of the home. So you know how that is. If you work and have kids, it's double duty. Initially, I started working as a pharmacy technician, behind the counter, counting pills, working with patients. And I really found that I had a big servitude type personality. I really love serving the patients. I mean, some could be a little ridiculous, but others I just fell in love with and wanted to help. I always ask myself, well, how would I treat my mom? Or how would I treat my grandma or my grandpa or my dad? Or how would it feel if I was that young mom and had 3 kids with strep throat and I treated them in such a way that I would want to be treated, or the people that I loved would want to be treated? Well, I climbed the corporate ladder and I got into managed care pharmacy, which is really the health insurance side of pharmacy management. I climbed that ladder for 19 years and it was actually very successful. Got into senior director positions. And I would say the outside world looking in, I had everything. I had a really incredible, successful career. I had been married for over 20 years, 3 beautiful daughters, beautiful home, doing everything that you think that you're supposed to do in life. But still, I managed feeling pretty empty, lost, stuck, not feeling completely satisfied with the position that I was in. And ultimately, I'm not saying that this is what caused it, but I do feel like there is a correlation between stress and actual physical health. I got sick, really sick in 2016. Initially, it presented with like swollen legs, shortness of breath. Fast forward a year worth of misdiagnoses, and finally, after a stress echocardiogram, they revealed that I had a terminal illness called cardiac AL amyloidosis. This disease is something 70-year-plus-old men get. I was 41 at the time of my diagnosis. No idea why I got it, but it was and continues to be the fight of my life, really. This disease attacks your organs, and for me, the primary organ that was attacked was my heart. In order to stop the disease, I had to do 10 months of outpatient chemo and a bone marrow transplant. It completely wiped me out. I stand 5'8" and got down to 128 pounds. And for me, that's pretty stick and bones.
Yes, yes.
Um, it ate away at my muscles. I didn't really want to eat. It was just a really, really hard fight. But I tried my darndest to stay positive. And when I finally got through that and I got the diagnosis of hematologic remission, meaning my body was no longer creating the malformed protein cells that was causing the buildup in my organs that caused the organ failure, I started trying to do everything I could to live life. I was getting out in the mountains, hiking, connecting with family, friends, doing things that I'd always been curious about but never had really done. But when you face mortality like that, you start living life a little bit differently, right? Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was kind of short-lived and I slowly started to deteriorate again. Was in and out of the hospital multiple times because I started getting that heart failure symptoms again, that buildup of fluid, swelling, shortness of breath. And I'd have to go in there and they'd have to give me medication to diurese me or to remove the extra fluid from my body. By fall of 2019, I was just as sick as I was prior to my diagnosis in 2016. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, is this my life? And if it's my life, like, do I just continue trying to be hopeful and live the best life I can? Like, what on earth do I do? And in January, just a few months later, that was in November when I really started pondering that and how ill I was feeling. And then in January, right after I had created my January 2020 vision board and all of the things that I was going to achieve that year, I had a stroke, a very massive stroke, actually. And if it wasn't for the almost immediate intervention by my kids and my husband, and getting me to the hospital, I don't know if I would have ever walked or talked again. My middle daughter, who was only maybe, goodness, 15 or 16 at the time, had just finished a CNA course at school. And so she knew all the signs and symptoms of a stroke and started testing me immediately, convinced her dad that I had a stroke. He literally threw me over his shoulder and rushed me to the hospital, which was just a block away, knowing that that was quicker than an ambulance ride.
Right.
There they administered a drug called TPN, which blocks, it breaks up the clot. It's an injection, breaks up the clot. And then they threw me to an ambulance to send me to the nearest trauma hospital. And there they sent me into a cath lab where the neurology team went up through my femoral artery and into my brain and literally tried to wrap a basket
Right.
or a clot around the clot and pull it out of my brain so that it wouldn't cause any more damage. And between those two things, like, here I am. It's a miracle. I'm walking and I talk.
Right.
I
Yes.
remember the first night after a stroke, they ask you every 15 minutes, what's your name? Where are you? Why are you here? And so for every 15 minutes right after a stroke, you're reminded that you had a stroke. And it's the most, it's just a horrible feeling. And I remember the next morning after the stroke, my husband asking the neurology team if I was going to walk or talk again, or if that was going to be what it was. And they're like, it's too soon to tell. We're just not really sure at this point. It was a very massive stroke. We'll see what happens over the next 24 hours. I remember thinking, no way is my life me not being able to walk or talk. And so that very next morning, I was up and I insisted that I needed to walk. And with the help of physical therapy and my nurse, I walked around the nurse's station that day and I pulled along a gimp leg. One leg, my right leg was going the normal, and then my left leg was kind of just being dragged behind.
Right.
So I kept on swaying to the left, and then they'd have to kind of push me back to the right. But I did it. And to see the nurses and the physicians with their jaws just slack-jawed, I knew what a miracle it was that I was walking. I actually got released right from the ICU and never went to the neurology floor after my stroke, and I was able to rehab. Um, Mostly, I mean, I still have some things that I deal with. It gets difficult to type. Um, my left leg does droop a little, especially when I'm tired. Sometimes my face droops when I'm tired, or I get slurred speech when I'm tired. But for the most part, like people can't tell that I had a stroke. Those are
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
things that
It's
I notice more
amazing.
than anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, but that stroke was actually the kickoff for my heart team to say, hey, you know what? We have an issue. If her heart is so stiff and allowing blood to pool that's causing blood clots, we got to get her on the heart transplant list. And so that's what they did. They got me on the heart transplant list, which, by the way, is a huge workup. It takes weeks of a really incredible amount of testing, including a psychiatric evaluation, stress tests, pulmonary tests, anything you can imagine to finally get on the list. And when you get on the list, you think, oh my goodness, I'm just going to get an organ really quick because now I'm on the list and they see the need. And it just wasn't the case at all, Mardi.
Yeah.
I waited for 15 months outpatient. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, at first I was given a pager, and I wasn't allowed to be outside of 1 hour perimeter of where I left, and I had to carry that pager 24 hours a day. Eventually, during the time I waited, they did just switch over to like a cell phone notification system, and I gave my pager back, but still same rules. Couldn't travel outside of the 1 hour perimeter for a whole
Right.
year. Yeah, it was hard. And the even more crazy part of it is I live a block away from a hospital. And so I was constantly hearing wife flight land there and head to the trauma hospital. And I always think, maybe that's my heart. Maybe that's my heart. It
Right.
never was, but like it was constantly on my mind for me and my family. Um, Finally, my gift did come after two hearts didn't work out. On September 9th of 2021. So I'm just at my 3-year anniversary now. And I got the gift from a complete stranger that is the most incredible gift that anybody could ever receive, my life. And I'll never be able to thank that person. But I'd like to think that they know how grateful I am and that I'm living my life not only for me, but for them as well. So every adventure I go on, they're in my heart and in my thoughts. And I always think, wonder how they would like this, or wonder if this have been something that would have brought them joy. And it's, I don't know, it's a pretty incredible and humbling experience to be able to live your life in such a way. I'd like to think that I would have lived my life that way had it not been somebody else who gave me the gift of life, and I think that I was trying to. But there's something about having someone else's heart in me that just motivates me even more to take care of myself, my physical body, my mind, my heart, just fill my life with joy and happiness in any way I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we're cheering you on here, Jessica. I can
Yeah.
feel it. People are just so on your side, and your story is, and that's not quite the end of your story, right?
No, it's not. So you asked, what got me thinking that this is the path I wanted to take as an entrepreneur? Well, things were kind of crazy at work, and I just really didn't have the passion anymore. But something happened when I waited for 78 days in the ICU waiting for my new heart. I kept on getting this feeling that I was meant for more and that I was supposed to help other people by sharing my story. And I didn't know how, and I didn't know what that looked like. Um, but that feeling just kept on rising inside of me. And so when things started just kind of going awry at work and leadership changes had been ongoing for years and a reorganization of the sales team happened, an opportunity presented itself for me to leave and to explore what I could do to actually help other people, just like I felt like I was supposed to do. And things have kind of just fallen into place. It's been the craziest experience of my life. Um, Within a week of leaving my job, I pitched my idea for my book to a publisher, and publishing my book, which comes out the beginning of this next year, is called Dancing in the Shower: Cultivating Radical Resilience to Live a Life You Love. And then after that, I had a business and branding coach reach out to me. I had attended one of her presentations years ago, and she got my email address, and she calls me and she says, "Jessica." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "This is Ann Bennett." And her voice is one of those voices that you never forget. I had only seen one presentation. It had been previous 2 years, but I knew exactly who it was. And she goes, "I don't know why your name pulled up for me, but I'm supposed to contact you today and see what's going on in your life." And I was like, okay. And I just went with it. I started talking to her and eventually, said, "Anne, I'd love to work with you." And she's helped me with my branding and my marketing and really helping me believe that I could make something out of this coaching business. I've been able to write several articles for magazines, Medium magazine, Bold Journey magazine. I'm actually part of an anthology book called My Unforgettable: Personal Stories That Will Inspire You. And I wrote a chapter calling Reeling in Resilience: Healing Trauma One Cast at a Time, which launches on paperback on the 8th of October on Amazon. Healing is a crazy thing. And part of healing for me was to find joy. And with joy comes adventure and curiosity. And something that I had always wanted to do was fly fish ever since I watched A River Runs Through It when I was in high school. I went to see the beautiful man and left with a passion for fly fishing, I guess, but I never tried it. Like, I always made excuses. Oh, I'll try fly fishing when, or I'll do that when it's not the right time because, and all of a sudden when you get a heart transplant, everything is the right time. And you get this curiosity just like you did when you were a child. And you just throw caution to the wind and you give
Yeah.
it a shot.
Yeah. And I
And
just want to say, for anybody listening in, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second here,
yeah,
Jessica. I could listen to your story for forever. I want to say that on top of all of this health stuff going on, you also went through a divorce, or you separated from your husband, I should say.
we did. We were separated. Um, we were trying to have a very mindful separation. We had 3 girls that we needed to think about and a family unit that we wanted to keep intact as much as possible. We knew that it was leading towards divorce, but we were just trying to be very mindful and loving in that direction as much as possible, despite all the hurt that I'd been through. Um, Unfortunately, before we got to that point, well, let me back up a little bit. We were doing such an incredible job. Every Sunday we were having family dinner, all of us. We were still spending holidays together. He still would spend the night Christmas Eve so that he'd be there Christmas morning to be with the family as soon as they woke up. Um, he and I were still texting, making sure we were okay throughout the week. We had been together for 27 years. So first and foremost, there was the fact that really we had grown up together. Um, so despite whatever pain or hurt that happened, like there was that long relationship. He knew me better than anybody did, right? Um, Unfortunately, before we got to the point that we did get our divorce done, he actually passed away last Easter. He had a pulmonary embolism, never had any health problems except a little bit of high blood pressure, which was being controlled by some medication. But we found him Easter at his house. Um, Me and my two youngest girls went looking for him when he didn't show up when we thought he would for Easter dinner. And so the last year was really hard. And then on top of that, I actually lost my mom in January. So within an 8-month period, I lost both my husband and my mom, both early unexpected deaths, which were really difficult. And a lot of that pressure or burden lied on me to get funeral arrangements done, make decisions about my mom's end of life, things like that. So it was a lot. And during that year, I was so worried about my kids and their sadness and their grief and their loss that I admittedly was putting them before me. And I found myself getting caught up in the sadness and the loss and the grief myself. And after my mom died, I thought, my goodness, Jessica, you have to pull you and your family out of this. You got to figure this out. And so I started implementing again the strategies and skills that I had uncovered during my own fight with my health issues, to try and get out of that and find that joyful, resilient life that I know that I have for myself.
And that's, and so I wanted people to hear the full the full loss and the full challenges that you were facing. And yet you still work with people to teach them how to be resilient and find joy. And sometimes I hear this from clients and from other people that, oh, all these resilience coaches and mindset coaches and positivity coaches, the only reason they're like that is because nothing bad has ever happened in their life.
I've heard that too.
And I have got to tell you, the people that can help you the most are the people that have lived true life experiences.
Mhm.
Like Jessica has a lot of life experiences that most of us will not know what it's like to have. And so if somebody who has been through these challenges can find this joy, can find this resilience, can and it stays motivated, and Jessica is the most positive person you've ever met with this. Um, that's a real story to how important this resilience is. And we are almost out of time, believe it or not. I can't believe how fast this time goes. But Jessica, I'd like you to share maybe just a couple of tips or ideas or strategies that you could share with people that you have found helpful to keep you on that path of looking for the positives, pulling yourself out of that sense of being overwhelmed and really building in this resilience.
Yeah. So I would say this. I think the foundation to resilience is gratitude, hands down. Gratitude can fuel so many other things that are just so beautiful and incredible that create resilience. I know a lot of people talk about doing gratitude journals, and I tried off and on throughout the years of my life and never stuck with it. But I am a big supporter of a gratitude journal. But along with gratitude, I think it's important to set intentions every day. So is what I started with is I started thinking about what I was grateful for that day. And initially, when I was in the depths of it and just super sick, it was, I'm grateful that there's doctors that know what's wrong with me and they're trying to help. But as I went through my journey, I saw more and more things that I could be grateful for. And they weren't new things showing up in my life, but they were things that were already there. And I just was missing because I wasn't like at that vibration or that mindset of looking for things to be grateful for. So soon 5 turns into 10 to 20 to 30, and it just snowballs from there. But I think it's also important, like I said, to set intentions in the morning. So just set a couple intentions. Today, I'm going to smile at a stranger at the grocery store. Or today, I'm going to respond to 5 emails and then I'm going to file them away and not have to think about them anymore. Just set a few intentions, because then it's a couple more things that you can be grateful for at the end of the day. And that reciprocating cycle is just one that creates like boundless gratitude. Another thing that I believe that is super important in creating resilience is joy. Now, joy is different than happy. Happy to me is fleeting. I'm happy that I got an A, but joy would be like, oh my gosh, I feel so incredibly joyful that I worked so hard and I got that A and now I feel good about myself. It's like this all-encompassing feeling that goes throughout your entire soul, right? So look for things that create joy in your life. I talked a little bit about adventure and curiosity, but I would start asking yourself this question: would it be possible if? And what comes to mind? Would it be possible if I could try fly fishing? Would it be possible if I could learn how to watercolor? And see what happens.
Yeah.
Like that curiosity is just this incredible, magical thing that creates so much joy in my life. And I believe that it can create joy in other people's lives too. So
Yeah, and I think that is that I normally ask people at the end, what would be your last wish for people? But I think that was such a great one. I don't think we need to repeat that. I think that
perfect. I love it.
I love that. I love that. Jessica, I know that people are going to want to find out more about you. Take a look at your books and get some, maybe even read some of your articles I know I read the one that was about you in Medium. I thought that was fantastic, by the way. So
thank you.
Tell us what's the best way for people to find you on online, social media, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at J Renfeldt. That's RENFELDT. Or I also have a website at Jessica Ann, that's Ann with an E, JESSICAANNE.org.
Wonderful. Jessica, I can't express enough gratitude for you being on the show, because I really think sharing your story and helping people understand that even in very, very difficult times, you can build resilience, you can find joy, and you can certainly have gratitude. So, Jessica, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. It was an honor, Mardi. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, you are welcome. And I'd like to thank every one of you for listening to this truly inspiring podcast today. And don't forget to tune in to the next episode of The D Shift. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.